This video is brought to you by my generous backers over on Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel and get cool perks like access to the Discord, seeing the videos a week before anyone else, or exclusive Patreon-only gameplays, plus a myriad of other perks, then check out my Patreon. The link's in the description below. Niv Mizzet Parun versus Sliver Overlord. Only one land. We are on the draw and we could go for Jace if we get into another land, but there's no guarantee of that. That is way better. How much does our opponent rely on artifacts to get up to the 5 colours they need? Because that'll dictate what we throw back here. I'm actually going to risk getting rid of the Vandal Blast because I want to play the Sky Diamond, and we could shuffle things up with Ponder. Maybe if we're really lucky, draw back into it. There is another island, so let's start things off with Volcanic into Ponder. Our opponent, of course, has just started things off with a tapped Tri-land. Brainstorm, Chain Lightning, I think can go on first. Then we can draw into the island next turn off of the Brainstorm if we want to. But I think we're going in for Sky Diamond. Yeah, so we'll not shuffle that. We might be able to get into a fetch or something off of Brainstorm. But like I said, I think we're going for Sky Diamond next turn. All depends on how quickly our opponent ramps here. Well, that's not ramp, that is a Flash Sliver, which you would have thought they would wait until our turn, but maybe they were expecting some counter magic there. So let's get down the Sky Diamond. I mean, if we're going to counter something like this, then we want to counter it on our turn anyway. But this way, they're going to force us to counter all their other slivers on our turn, I think. So, might have been a good play by our opponent, getting that down so quickly. Okay, but not making use of the flash. They could have gone for Gemhide Sliver at the end of our turn, and then still gone for Hibernation Sliver. They can pay life to return these things now, can't they? So Chain Lightning isn't necessarily... That is 3 damage to any target. Yeah, okay, let's just hold up some counter magic and we can go for a Brainstorm at the end of our opponent's turn. They've got a lot of mana here, and they've actually got enough mana to go for the Sliver Overlord and pay for a mana leak, so we'll go in for mana drain here and get ourselves a bunch of colourless mana that I doubt we're going to make use of. They may have counter magic of... Oh, actually, that's my mistake. We should have gone for mana leak there. First strike. Yeah, I don't really care about first strike. Yeah, I had it in my head that they had Wooburg on 5 lands there for some reason, but they actually had to tap down this Sliver. So they didn't have the mana to pay for mana leak. That's a mistake on my part. Let's go for this Brainstorm. Okay, we can put the... We'll put the Chain Lightning and we'll put the Wooded Foothills on top, and then we can draw out the Wooded Foothills and shuffle away that Chain Lightning. And like I said, we are going to get some mana here that we don't care about. Well, we could go for something with Fabricate, I suppose. Yeah, a mana rock with Fabricate seems like the thing to do here. In fact, what we could do is go for the Old Faithful in Vidalcan Shackles and take them off of a bunch of mana. But they can pay to return that to their hand thanks to this thing, so... Yeah, instead we'll just try and get out our Niv Mizzet. Go for Coalition Relic, and we'll play that out immediately. And actually, I'm just thinking about this now. What we could have done, put a charge counter there. What we could have done is drawn into that chain reaction that we've got on top. Oh no, we shuffled it away, didn't we? Yeah, had I planned the turn out, we could have gone for chain lightning, not chain reaction, onto this, force our opponent to bounce it back, and then we would have had free reign to take control of this. So that might have been a better option for us, but not to worry. Let's just go and look at this card in our opponent's hand. Oh, it is a Sliver Overlord. That's not good. That is 5, 6, and then they can definitely pay for the Sliver Overlord there. So Treasure Cruise. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that's... Yeah, I don't think we're going to have enough to go for a Treasure Cruise here. Let's grab a Mountain there. Yeah, so that's 6, 7, 8, and then we won't be able to hold up Mana Leak. Yeah, so I think... We'll see if our opponent might want to go for Sliver Overlord as opposed to the, whatever they've got in hand. What's it called? The Sliver Hivelord. If they go for Sliver Hivelord, then they can afford to pay for the Mana Leak is the only problem, and this is why it really matters to get your counter spells played in the right order. But they are going for their commander, that's really good. So it didn't punish us too much. Yeah, so that's just a happy accident. Absolutely should have gone for Mana Leak the first time and then Mana Drain on this one. Our opponent can swing in here if they want to. One more land or one more Sliver and they can get their commander down again. And they can obviously afford this thing. We draw into another land, so I think it's time for us to get down our Niv Mizzet Parun. We'll add red there. Then go in for our commander. And I usually like to have counter magic backup, but obviously we don't have any currently, so... For an island, I think we can go Treasure Cruise, can't we, and exile our entire graveyard. I just have to hope that we don't regret that, because we might want to go for Snap Mage into a Mana Drain. Okay, Dak Faden won't do as much good just yet. Let's encourage our opponent to send that back to the hand. They're going to need to spend mana. Or not mana, they're going to need to spend life to bounce that back. And then we're of course drawing 3 cards. So we'll attempt to bounce more of our opponent's stuff again. Point 2 there. And 1 at the Flash Sliver. And this is just making them play out all their slivers again. It's a huge tempo loss for them. They're bouncing the Quick Sliver. And then they are likely going to bounce the Hibernation Sliver as well. Okay, they're actually going for getting rid of the First Strike Sliver as well, because they won't be able to do that after their Dimir Sliver is gone. So they're just preempting that we've got something else. It's actually a peak in our hand, so we need to decide if we want to bank mana with the Coalition Relic, or if we want to go for peak. We know most of what's in our opponent's hand, all but 2 cards, I think. They drew a card when they had this Sliver Hivelord, and now they've just drawn another one. And obviously we just bounced a bunch of stuff back to their hand as well. They've only got 1 green, so they have to choose between the Mana Sliver and the Flash one. And they've decided on the Quick Sliver during their main phase. They should really try and force us to counter that on our own turn, as opposed to doing it at this point. Now going in for the First Strike Sliver as well. We can blow these up when we draw something now, because they don't have the Hibernation Sliver anymore. Got it in their hand, but obviously they haven't played it. So let's get rid of Flash immediately upon drawing a card at the beginning of the turn. Oh, and I completely forgot about Coalition Relic. I always do that. Alright, let's play out the Sulphur Falls. Let's play the Dak Faden as well. And I'll probably just loot the Mox Diamond and a land away. Dak Faden does count as drawing cards, so that will be more damage. Draw 2, discard 2 is getting rid of Mox Diamond and a Mountain. Then we'll ping there, and ping our opponent. And this looks to be just very unlucky for our opponent. Let's swing in with the Niv Mizzet, and then continue to hold up Peak and Electrolyze. And this time have to try and remember not to Forego the Coalition Relic. That is, slivers you control get +0/+1. I think that is worth a dismiss because the more toughness our opponent's slivers have, the more difficult it is for us to burn. So dismiss will draw us a card. We will fling some damage at our opponent, get into Jace Vryn's Prodigy and an exclude. Draw another card from the dismiss, which means we get to ping our opponent again. And yeah, they decide to call it a day. That was typical of what you want to do with Niv Mizzet Parun, but it wasn't a particularly enthralling game, I don't think. So I think that we definitely need to get another game going now and see if we can get into something more interesting. Alright, I just started another game. I wasn't going to play against this player, but they're obviously up for another game. Let's have a look here. We've got blue and red in our opening hand, along with a Brainstorm on turn 1, and we can shuffle some stuff away with Misty Rainforest. So that's actually a very good opening hand, I think. See if we can play our counter magic the right way around this game. We care about the number of islands played in this deck thanks to Vidalcan Shackles, so get the island out over the command tower. And at the end of our opponent's turn, we will grab the Brainstorm and a heap more lands, which I don't actually mind. So let's go Reflecting Pool, and we'll put the Bloodstained Mire on top, ready to draw into. And then we can shuffle away the Reflecting Pool even. Either going after a basic mountain, or we can go after Steam Vents with that. I think we're going to be going in for a tapped Shockland, but it all, as usual, depends on what our opponent plays. Now they go for Sliver Hive, 1 mana of any colour, 4 slivers, and then 5 and tap creates a 1/1 sliver. Oh, and that's a good one, isn't it, I think? When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage and you gain 1 life. Yeah, a little drain effect on slivers entering. We've got Electrolyze. I think I would rather counter my opponent's. Yeah, we'll let that enter. I think I'd rather counter my opponent's commander. And this way we can get a fetch into a tapped Shockland. And obviously we get drained for 1 by that sliver. And we can electrolyze this thing if needs be. There's a negate as well. So we'll just throw out Volcanic Island. And then pass the turn again. If our opponent doesn't do anything that we deem counterspell worthy, then we will electrolyze the Lava Belly Sliver. Well, that's a 4 mana sliver, so okay, can't be countered. And this spell can't be countered, that has Electrolyze written all over it. We can't have our opponent's slivers not being countered. So let's Electrolyze that for the 2 damage. And that draws us a card as well. We'll still get drained for 1 from the Lava Belly Sliver ability. And we get into another mountain, so should be able to get out our Niv Mizzet Parun easily enough. Then our opponent swings in. Perhaps should have used the counterspell on that, but they're already at 4 mana. And probably get down a 5th next turn into their commander. We just continue to hold up mana, I think, so we go. Yeah, we can drop an island, hold up counterspell and Fact or Fiction. If they don't go for their commander or something that we want to counter, then we'll just get more cards with the Fact or Fiction. And there we are, I think. That puts them on Wooburg. Any 1 mana of any colour. Spend to cast a creature spell. Yes, they can go green, black, red, white and blue. Which is exactly what they go for. Luckily, we can counter slivers now. This would be a very different game if the root sliver stuck around. And that doesn't enter either, so it doesn't trigger the Lava Belly, but that will continue to chip away at us. Vandal Blast is discard fodder as far as I can tell. Let's drop a mountain, and then we might be on Niv Mizzet Parun next turn. Could go for Dak Thaden. and try and draw into counter magic. I actually quite like the sound of that. Might distract our opponent away from swinging in at us as well, because our opponent is being chipped away slowly but surely. So let's go for the loot here. Okay, memory lapse. That's exactly the type of thing I was looking for. So we'll go Vandal Blast and get rid of Search for Azcanta as well. Not too sure that we're going to be able to find the time to do that. Spiteful Sliver this time. Whenever this creature is dealt damage, it deals that much damage. Yeah, I don't really care about that. Oh, does it get to do it to player or planeswalker? That's worth knowing. So they're going to drain Dak Faden and then swing in at Dak Faden, I dare say. That's poisonous. How quickly are we going to get into a board wipe? Because that's a 2-turn clock starting next turn, assuming that we don't get down a blocker, which we will do with Niv Mizzet, so yeah, I'm going to allow that as well. That will get rid of our Dak Faden though. Because, yep, they're swinging in there. Maybe should have gone for a counter on that just to mess up our opponent's draw next turn, but I don't want to counter absolutely everything my opponent does. Okay, there's a Ponder. Drop the command tower, and then we've got... Yeah, our opponent's not going to be able to get out their commander next turn, so let's try and go for our Niv Mizzet, and we'll hope our opponent doesn't have removal because we don't have any free counters currently. Haven't gotten into much ramp, so we can't play out Niv Mizzet with counterspell backup on turn 6, unfortunately. And I don't want to wait until turn 8 to get down our commander. They've got 3 cards in hand. They may well have Path or Swords or something like that. Now this thing is... Whenever this creature is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to a player or planeswalker. Yeah, so I think we have to block this thing first, because we're going to be dealing 5 damage to it. We could just wait to draw some cards next turn and pile on damage to it that way. Okay, Harmonic Sliver. That's Artifacts and Enchantments, I think. Which doesn't matter currently, but they will drain us again. Oh, and then going for that quick Sliver again. So they've only got 1 card left in hand. We could really do with some kind of board wipe maybe. Although if we can draw enough cards, we can just ping everything to death. Now let's see what they swing in with. They can't direct this towards a creature, can they? It is just player or planeswalker, so we block there. That's 5 damage. 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I want rid of this thing because I'm going to start peppering away at all my opponent's stuff next turn. And as soon as this is off the field, it won't matter that Niv Mizzet is dealing a bunch of damage to stuff. That's more poison counters. That won't matter because this is going down next turn. So we go down to 13. Our opponent's at 1 card in hand though, so I'm hoping that won't matter. We draw our card for the turn, so definitely getting rid of the poison thing. Then we'll throw out an island, play a Ponder, and we'll peck the Boros Sliver as well, because that is draining us over the course of the game. And we'll draw a card from the Ponder to finish off that as well. Mystic Confluence is more card draw. So we can go Island, Mystical, and Mystic Confluence. Say no to the shuffle. And then from the draw on the Ponder, finish off the red-white Sliver. Then it is 1-2 for Cold Steel Heart, and then we'll only have 4 mana held up. This doesn't count as draw, it is reveal the top 5 cards, so I think we just hold up the Mystic Confluence. Attacking our opponent, because they are out racing us currently. And there's the other land they needed. They just need 1 more to get down their commander again, but they're not likely to get it past our counter magic unless they've got a Cavern of Souls in hand. Essence is Shadow, I think. No, it's not. It is its controller gains that much life when it deals damage. Let's counter and draw 2. That way we deal with 3 slivers, using only 1 card, so that is a huge amount of advantage for us. Oh, and of course we draw a card from actually casting the Mystic Confluence as well, so we actually get to deal some damage to our opponent at the same time. Get rid of Harmonic Sliver. Then that will resolve. It will counter our opponent's Sliver, and it will draw us a couple of cards. So 1 goes on the remaining Sliver, 1 onto our opponent. And now we've got Mystical Tutor held up as well. And our opponent is empty-handed, so we'll draw another card from the Mystical Tutor thanks to Niv Mizzet Parun's ability. Drawing to Exclude, which I'm sure our opponent would love us to play. Let's just go for a cheap one in Peak is faster to cast, so we'll just go for Peak. And then draw into the Peak at the beginning of the turn for more damage with Niv. Go in for the Island and the Cold Still Heart and everything else we can play on our opponent's turn, I think. Naming blue off of that because we've got a bunch of blue cards in our hand. Then let's swing in. And even if our opponent goes for their commander here, we've got Memory Lapse and Exclude. But they haven't gotten into the extra mana they need, so they're just going for Might Sliver. Let's go Exclude on that. Yeah, Solitaire Control feels pretty bad, but I am winning this as fast as I can. We were just on the back foot for a lot of the game, but we've managed to take control now. So it's 2 points of damage to our opponent, 1 from casting it and 1 from the draw on Exclude. And we get into Dig Through Time and an Island. Then Peek at our opponent's hand. We know what they've got in their hand, but this will draw us a couple of cards for more damage. Like I said, I'm just trying to win as quickly as I can at this point. Draw into Ancestral Vision and another Island. We'll play out the Island along with that Arcane Signet that we just drew into. Then we'll play the Ancestral Vision. Go for the Vidalcan Shackles, ready to take our opponent's commander just in case they, by some miracle, manage to pull something off there. Then we'll swing in again and hopefully we can draw the game to a close sooner rather than later. Okay, there's the Gemhide Sliver. Our opponent's still not managing to make a land. Let's just go for the counter on that. It'll screw up their draw for next turn, and yet again it's more damage. And at the end of our opponent's turn, we'll go in for Dig Through Time just to try and cast as many instants and sorceries as we possibly can. So let's just go for Disallow and Dismiss there. The rest go on the bottom in any order. I was hoping for some cantrips there. Draw into Chrome Mox. Let's play an Island, and I'm going to hope that we manage to get into a bunch of cantrips off of this Fact or Fiction instead. If I can end the game this turn, then I will certainly do that. Okay, they're giving us a couple of things there, so Fabricate and Into the Royal are better than anything else. Let's go for said Fabricate, just because it triggers Niv Mizzet. We don't care about grabbing an artifact at this point. We will grab ourselves a Mox Diamond. Then this is the one where you discard a land. We can certainly do that. And we'll just get rid of this fetch. Into the Royal, return a target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Our opponent, unfortunately, doesn't have any non-land permanents for us to return. We could do it to one of our own things, I suppose. Attack our opponent with Niv Mizzet. And then let's just try and end it now. We'll go in for the Into the Royal and we will kick it. And we'll send back the Arcane Signet. Actually, could have sent back the Mox Diamond because we've got another land to discard with that. So we draw a card from casting it and then draw a card from the into the royal resolving. Yeah, unfortunately didn't manage to get into anything there. Let's go Chrome Mox. And we'll get rid of the disallow. And then we'll just leave it like that. Get rid of a bunch of stuff from our hand. Yeah, could have held up the 4 mana for dismiss. And could have actually kept hold of the disallow to counter whatever my opponent does here. And that would ping them for the victory. They get down that Gemhide Sliver that we knew they were going to draw into. And now we draw a card. And ping our opponent. Yeah, so like I said, I tried to get another game going with someone else, but my opponent decided to join me again, which I have absolutely no problem with. But I just wanted to let you all know that I'm not joining this individual's game because I think it'll be an easy win or something. I think slivers in general will be hard to win against a heavy control deck like Niv Mizzet Parun. If you could make something like the Root Sliver stick or get into Cavern of Souls, then it'd be a much different story. But obviously our opponent didn't manage to do that this game. So good for them for joining me for a second game, and good for them for sticking this one out to the bitter end because it really got dragged out towards the end of the game there. So big props to them. Hopefully you all got some enjoyment from it as well, you Niv Mizzet Parun fans. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching. And thank you for being a patron, because this is a Patreon exclusive video. So a big thank you to you for supporting me in the very first week of the Patreon's existence. Thank you for watching.